Santa's watching, Santa's waiting, Christmas Eve is slowly fading. Can you hear him in the night? Close the door, turn out the light.
Hey, what's up, people? Pizzal here, and welcome to episode 4 of On the Real podcast. I want to apologize for the gap between my last episode with special guest Steve Johnson and this one. I hope everyone had a great Halloween and Thanksgiving. Now the holiday season is once again upon us, and with it brings my yearly tradition of watching lots and lots of Christmas-themed horror movies. There's something about that juxtaposition of Christmas time, the most wonderful time of year, and a good, dark horror movie. A few years ago on my YouTube channel, I did a series of reviews entitled Holiday Horrors, in which I reviewed the classics, Black Christmas, Christmas Evil, Silent Night, Bloody Night, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and its oddity of a sequel, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 was envisioned by the film's producers as a way to reclaim some of the money they lost on the first film, as its distributor TriStar pulled the movie after just 2 weeks from theaters, due to the outcry by mothers groups claiming the film's portrayal of a killer Santa would warp children. Siskel and Ebert even went so far in their review of the film to call out both director Charles E. Sellier Jr. and TriStar Pictures for their parts in making and distributing such an abominable film. Producers approached director Lee Harry initially to simply recut the first film, adding new music and slapping on the title of Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. Harry insisted that new footage be shot, and with a budget of reportedly just $100,000 and 7 days to shoot, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2 went into production. Released in April of 1987, the film came and went from theaters quickly, and soon found its place in sequel obscurity, where it would have certainly stayed had it not been for the performance of the film's lead, Eric Freeman. Soon the movie began to gain momentum among aficionados of good, bad movies, and Freeman's over-the-top performance as Ricky, the brother of disturbed Santa killer Billy from the first film, took on a life of its own. Freeman's performance had soon gained far more recognition than the film itself. The iconic scene involving Ricky's breakdown and rampage in the streets of some suburban somewhere leading to his declaration of Garbage Day had taken on its own celebrity, having had become a meme, a viral video, even a t-shirt. Fans of the film and of Freeman's tour de force performance discovered that Freeman's acting career, according to IMDb, had wound down in the early 90s with bit parts on television series like In Living Color, Dangerous Curves, and Going Places, with credits like Jock Number 1 and Harbor Officer. Fans scoured the net looking for Eric Freeman. They cold-called every Eric Freeman in the phone book. The movement took on its own call to action, Finding Freeman. Message boards exploded with speculation. Freeman had been born again and was a minister somewhere in the Midwest. He had changed his identity and was now raising a family in some undisclosed location. There was even doubt as to whether or not he was still alive. Then, finally, sometime around the end of 2013, to the delight of his fans, Freeman was found. I recently had the opportunity to speak with Eric Freeman about the making of Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, his performance in the film, the Finding Freeman movement, and how he feels about his iconic status, not only in the horror movie community, but among fans of good, bad movies. Well, I have to say, it is a true honor and a pleasure to be speaking with Eric Freeman from Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. How are you doing, Mr. Freeman?
I'm fine. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
Well, I have to, there's so many questions that I want to ask you about Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 and the years that, that followed that movie. But how did you get involved with Silent Night, Deadly Night 2?
We have this circular, or I should say, a magazine that came out once a week. They may not have it now, but a number of years ago when I was a kid, it was called Drama Log. It was a weekly, how would you say, almost, it wasn't a magazine or anything, but it was it was a circular you could buy for $1, $1.50 that would inform actors, non-union really, like what projects are out there, who might be casting for them. It's kind of a helpful little thing you could buy at the newsstand that would help actors, get extra work, or somebody might be casting a movie and for auditions and things, other advertisements in there for headshots and resumes and whatever.
Right.
It was kind of little actors, little circular you could buy. So that's how I saw it. I saw an ad for the casting for a horror film, and not to belabor it, but I showed up there for entirely a small role. I think it was a cop or a security guard or something. It wasn't the lead at all. So that's how that came to be. And and then I was brazen and young and cocky, so I said, well, who's got the lead? And Joe Earl was there, and Lee was, looking at me, and Joe said, well, no, we've got that wrapped up. He kind of just shut me down real quick, and because he had a guy who was really, really hot over, and the Lee was looking, kind of staring at me, and he said, well, we think we've got that locked up, but thanks for your time. And so they auditioned many other people that day, and we were all on tape. And so they may have looked at the tape again, but Lee called me a couple days later and said he wanted to have me come in and talk about a role or something. So I could elaborate more. I just don't want to be too long-winded. But
no, that's fine. Did you audition for Ricky?
Yeah, that's the funny thing about it. What ended up on the screen, I was off the chart. I was off the wall, and it was a bizarre character I did. But we videotaped the audition for the lead, and then I was called back a couple days later, and they were getting real close to shooting this thing, because they had scheduled to shoot it for 5 days or something. And but I got called back again. Lee called me and said, we would like you to do the lead in this movie. And then I came in. And Lee and Joe both worked at an editing company right near Warner Brothers studio over there. So I went back again, and we talked. And the odd thing, the funniest thing of all, is they said, well, we saw your tape, but, you weren't really giving us much. You were really kind of subdued. And we're kind of quiet, and then Joe Earl had spoken up, and he was the one that kind of was always planting a seed that I wasn't, this guy's crazy nuts. He was literally Captain Queeg with little steel balls in his hand saying, give me more. He said, well, the guy we were really wanting to go with. I think that Joe was kind of getting, told, that by Lee that he wanted me, but Joe didn't. So Joe was like, well, the guy we wanted was really, with some crazy things in his audition. He was really just off the charts, and he was just, and so there was kind of a seed being planted that I didn't give enough, and I didn't, and then how it ended up. But that was kind of the thing in the background all the time. I was kind of getting more from, especially from Joe. Not Lee was way too busy. And if you were on the set, you would have known Lee was way too busy in getting the shot. And if you know the movie well, so you know that he had a lot of cool shots, a lot of dolly shots, and a lot of really nice work, director's work on that, and cinematography was good. So he spent a lot of time behind the camera. He didn't talk to me at all, really, as it were. So, and there wasn't any dailies to look at or anything that could say, hey, man, you were good in that, but you were a little bit, a little over the top with the other stuff. I don't know what else to tell you, but yeah, Joe didn't want me at all, but Lee did. And I guess because there was a resemblance to the younger Ricky from the first one, right?
Yeah.
So,
now, were you a fan of, are you a horror movie fan? Had you seen the first Silent Night, Deadly Night?
Since the second question first, I did not see it. I wish they would have let me see it. When I got when they said, we want you, and it was a Thursday, and they were shooting on Monday, I believe. So it was right around the corner, and Lee and Joe were basically acting out what they had written. I know that this is sacrilege to the people that saw the original, and that's why they didn't. Some people that didn't like 2 was because it wasn't keeping in form of a horror film, but they acted out the scenes that they had written in front of me, what they were, and they were just laughing their heads off and having fun with it. And I never saw the original one at all. I wish I did, but it was just one of these things where they didn't offer it. I don't know why, and I didn't have access to it. And so the answer to that, I was not a fan of it, or I was or wasn't. It didn't matter. I liked all things, but films wise. But later in later years, yeah, I've become a bigger fan of the genre. But in the day, no, I didn't get to look at the original. And Robert Wilson is now a friend of mine, which is of recent. And but he did a magnificent job. He really did. He understated that and played it just as he should have. And my hat's off to him. He did a great job. Yeah, he's a nice guy, and so I'm thrilled.
Yeah,
and I'd like him for the script. I wrote a script, and I want him for a huge part in that. And so that's. But yeah, he's a nice guy. People don't know, he did it. He did it. I was real happy looking at that all those years later, going, "Wow, man, he just nailed it." And so yeah, no, I'm not a horror fan, like a junkie on it, but and I guess my only reason is, and this might be my bias, is that I love the gratuitous violence part of it, yes, but I always like a reason for it.
Right.
I don't really, you know what I'm saying, that if the story's good enough and drives it, then I don't mind what he does to the nemesis or opponent or the problem he has, how he executes that person or what. I love it. But if it's just to do it, that doesn't hold my attention, if you know what I mean.
Right. Well, so the direction that you were given from the directors was basically just give me more. Did they ever say, was there any other direction that they gave you? Did they say, okay, Eric, bring it down a little bit, or was it always just give me more? How active were they in directing you as the lead in this film?
I didn't get a lot of, it was like, to answer that, and I don't mean to be skirting the question, but it was really like Lee had to wear 8 hats. He had to be, director and editor and this and that. I mean, because they were editors, and I'm sure he'd done some award-winning, I think, student films. But understand that Lee had a lot of jobs to do, and time was of the essence. There wasn't a lot of direction from Lee. I would be lucky if I got what we were going to do that morning. I had no clue. It wasn't like the night before they're saying, okay, we're going to do pages X to Y. Or anything. There wasn't any of that. It wasn't, and I'm not blaming anybody or saying anything. It's just that he didn't have time for an actor. So the question is, what was the directions? Hey, that was a little bit. Could we tone that next one down? There wasn't any of that. I know that Joe was out going. One day in particular, we were doing the rampage and the car stunt and the Mother Superior stuff all in one day, because it was later in the night when we started doing Mother Superior. It was more interiors of the house, and so we got the exteriors early in the day, where coming up to the door and such. But all that rest was in nighttime. Naturally, that would be the best time to do it. But I didn't get tone this down, that's for sure. It was really, Joe was on the side of, Joe was always in there like, man, this guy's nuts. This is where, you gotta, go. And it's my choices on that may have not, in the day, though, looking back at that and seeing the film when it was done months later at some, theater, I was like, wow, in the day, looking at that when I was, 19 or something, I I didn't think it was, my greatest work because I had done a lot of stuff and then ended up doing more. But the thing is in hindsight, now I look at it, people love the thing they love it because it's, kind of a so bad it's good thing, and they love it. And I get it. I didn't take it seriously in the day. I was busy. In the sense that to me, it was just like doing a bunch of a few days of work. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying that for me, I had a focus to go a different direction in the acting world. It wasn't that. It was just a few days worth of work, getting paid, I don't know what it was, $1,500 or something. It was just do it, get it done. I wasn't taking it that seriously, and that is probably for the best. But because it looked like, to me, it was just we're adding something to another a film that's already existing. So it wasn't something that we could develop from beginning to end, and a character. But it is what it is. I'm happy that I did it, and it was real. The shoot was crazy. We did a lot of work in a short amount of time with old school cameras. And today it'd be digital, and you could do this kind of work. And the only person I could think of that could have handled that kind of stress, it would be like David Dakota, who can just do a whole film in 7 days. Yeah. And he would be one that could, have the organizational skills to do that. But I don't know what to say on did I get direction here? Did I get direction? No, I didn't. There wasn't any of that.
Well,
there wasn't any time to direct me. It was, we're doing this scene, and and he might say, well, I want you to walk into this, and I want you to swing your axe on that toy Santa on the ground, or whatever. General direction of what physically I want you to walk in the scene, do this or that, but there wasn't a lot of blocking and rehearsal and this and that. It was just, let's get this shot and move on. So
right, I understand. Well, I got to tell you, from the heart of a Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 fan, and I think I echo the sentiment of a lot of other Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 fans, you made all the right moves on that movie, Eric. All the right moves. The Garbage Day sequence, which has become this almost iconic, well, it is an iconic, it's a meme. You are a meme now, Eric. Do you understand what that means? Can you describe what that just shooting that sequence was like? Do you have a vivid memory of the Garbage Day scene?
Yeah, no, I remember it. I remember how it started, walking down the sidewalk with Elizabeth, and she was just absolutely a great person, just a sidetrack, normal person, left in a pair of jeans and a T-shirt, and got a crappy brown, $50 Ford Thunderbird and left, but she was really a cool girl. And exactly what you'd want if you were looking for a girl. No pretense. But yeah, I walked on the sidewalk and the chip thing, and we went through what we wanted to do, because it was the battery cables and all that. But yeah, I remember, I can see it in my head like it was yesterday, and that's the way good memories are. But that whole thing of the shocking, blowing his head off.
Yeah.
There's some squibs and little stunt things there, and then the stunt head, and pretty cool stuff. I know it was crazy. It was a crazy performance. At times I was totally in this guy. I mean, and it was almost autopilot. At that point, it was like, man, this guy's just, I don't know. I can't explain it. It's something that took over me. I guess there was just there was a little cheerleader on the side telling me what
right.
More. This guy's nuts. Okay, he's nuts. and Chris obviously didn't want me to underplay it at that point, but I did what I did with the material given, and I appreciate your kind words. I look at as an actor, because I did other things later before my career was short, but where I pulled back and it was normal. But in this case, I do remember, going through that rampage, that there was a lot. I like the part of ripping the antenna off and choking her. I love that. I still, my favorite part of it. I like choking her and having her a little bit crazy there. Eyes are a little crossed, a little nuts. I do remember my face kind of burning, my ears burning during that, because I was kind of, out there. I was somewhere else, but my head was kind of burning, and I could feel it, and I still can feel it. But I love that. And she drops, and I just like the whole thing. And she starts to run, and that was fun. And garbage can and all that. No, good stuff. It's fun.
Do you remember what was the release of the film like? Did it get any kind of, was it I imagine it was a relatively small release. Did it do anything to help your career in the short term?
Well, it's a good question, because David Dakota went and saw it was called Groman's Chinese. It's a big theater there on Hollywood Boulevard. It's been changed names, but Groman's Chinese Theater. It's all where everyone the stars go to put their hands on cement and all that. And he saw it, and he hired me like 2 or 3 times, and it helped. And I got hired, he just wanted me, and so he. I remember the casting lady called me and said, David Dakota, the director, he wants you, which is really cool to have something to happen to you. And I said, well, I'd like to audition for you, because I just don't want anyone getting me a job. And because I was aware enough to know that casting directors can have hurt feelings real quick if someone goes around them. Even if the director wants somebody and makes their life easier to hire, they want to be able to vet and see if this guy's got the chops to do it. So David hired me, and other, I don't know what else came of it, but there might have been others. But yeah, there was it was helpful, and I did see it in the theater. What did it have released? To back up, when the guy David Wolf got right to do like this, to take the original and make a sequel, if you will, or add footage to it. David Wolf came to Larry Applebaum, that was the boss of Lee and Joe at the editing. He owned the editing shop, and he came to him saying, well, we got murdered when we first released this thing with the mothers and the this and the that,
right.
Everyone in Siskel and Ebert. So they lost their shorts, so their idea was to first edit it. All the David Wolf wanted, hey, can you edit this thing, re-edit, change it? This is what they do there. So, and then Joe and Lee had come up with the idea of like, look, for $100,000 we can add, and then Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 was born. But what kind of traction did it have when it was out there again? It got released. I saw it in Culver City, and it was a predominantly black area, and they were yelling at the screen the whole time.
Right.
Don't go in there. Don't do that. What are you doing? That. I'm watching it. They were enjoying themselves, but it was 3/4 full, and it was Friday night. But I don't know what kind of traction it got. David Wolf, I talked to him a number of months ago, trying to work out a rights thing and stuff, and he said to go to the owner and then come back to him. But the point is, he still to this day says it didn't make any money and and everyone lost their short. That's not true. That thing's made money, and I still kind of think, because of the popularity of 2, and I still think it's the most popular of all of it. And the others from 3 on, from what I hear, are total crap. But the point is I think I kind of kept that thing going because of the over-the-top performance. And in a way, Alan Belenkoff, that owns the rights, should have tried to work something out with me, frankly. And he was just all business. So I don't know what it did, and as far as box office the second time around.
Well, did they approach you about being in part 3? Because Ricky is in part 3.
Yeah, no, I was not. I was not approached, and I had an agent, and I was easily accessible. I lived right in Hollywood, and still do. And but the point is, everyone acted like I fell off the face of the earth, and maybe I did. I don't know, but I was. Lee could have got a hold of me. Joe could have, or anybody that wanted to. I think that they, frankly, probably thought they wanted to go a different direction. I don't know if Monty Hellman shot that one. I don't know, but I think that they probably all thought, this guy sucks. We're not having him back for nothing and whatever. Because back in the day, it probably looked like them to, for example, Scott Schneider wrote the original. Still he likes the original. He hates part 2. I think the powers that be in there didn't want to go that direction at all, didn't want me at all, and wanted to go whatever way they wanted to go, and think, oh, well, I don't know what he did, but it turns out what I did is liked.
Right.
So for its craziness, but you could understand that you could look at that years ago and you're a money person or something like, we have a script and we don't want to, whatever, and so I can't say, I'm only speculating, but
at what point did you realize that there was this huge movement to find you, that there was this big Finding Freeman movement among the horror fans? We were trying to track you down. We were trying to find Eric Freeman wherever. I think there was even maybe a documentary made about it, or they were talking about making a documentary called Finding Freeman. I just remember for many, many years, you were like, you know what I mean? Everybody was looking for Eric Freeman. At what point did you discover, like, oh my God, I'm like, number 1 most wanted in the horror world?
Oh, that is a great question, all. I didn't find out about it till 3 years ago. And it was a complete mystery. My brother was just a couple years older. He unexpectedly, he just died. He had a heart attack and died. And I had a car back in Minnesota, a nice convertible Mustang, and he was holding on to it for me. And I went back for the memorial, and I looked at the car, and I was like, well, I got to get this going. But I came back when it warmed up, because it was dead winter and 40 below. But I came back in the springtime, and a friend of mine that I grew up with, Med James. Some of the folks that you're of your fan base there might know John James, because he's out on he was blogging for years on this. John was a year or so, 2 years older than I. But Med and John, it was the James family. I was my neighbors growing up, and when Med had helped me, I kind of lent my car to his house, and I was fixing it there too, and I was out doing a brakes or something, and he said, Eric, I told you about this back in the memorial. They're looking for you. And I never paid attention then. My brother passed, and I was out of it. But so he said, yeah, there's this site, Finding Freeman. They're looking for you. I said, who's why? He said, you did a film years ago, horror film. I said, oh yeah. And he said, well, it's turned out to be something, and they're looking for you, and you got to look at this. And so I think I washed my hands and went in his basement and looked at this, and looked at what people were writing. I was happy to see some good things, and then some blogs were not so kind. And one blogger in particular, I was like, man, he's acting like he was on the set. He doesn't know shit. And so I said, well, I'll remember him, and when I get back to LA, I'll I felt like I had to defend myself, because I didn't know that world. I didn't know that, and then when someone's cutting you to pieces like they were there, and which is fine. I'm not thin-skinned or overly sensitive, but actors really have to be. You have to be tough as leather to take the rejection, but you also have to open yourself up and have emotion. So I didn't like the negative at all. It's like, I don't mind you cutting me to pieces, but at least know what happened. Why am I was the bad. I was the guy you could kick, like the dog you could kick, because no one ever talked to me. So they were talking to Lee and Joe and all the, so there was some bad mouthing going on, and then people, want embellishing and publisher perish and all that. So, but I just felt like I should come back to LA, and I contacted this guy and said, hey man, I did an interview just like I'm doing now, and I said, you don't get it, and you weren't there. And so to answer that, like how to, well, I mean, you had a lot of questions. I apologize for coming off track, but that's how I learned about it, is through Med James. I was back there, and then I drove the car. I didn't have the stereo was out of the car for some reason, couldn't find it, and so I had nothing to listen to and whatever, and I'm driving this thing back, and I'm heading back and going to the Colorado mountains, and I'm going, I should show these fuckers. and I said, I've always wanted to think, what would happen to Caldwell if I could, 25 years later, and so I thought up the whole screenplay in my head, like, this is where I'll go, this is what I'll do. And so I came back to LA and bought the Final Draft software, and I wrote the script. But to answer your question more specifically, that's the way I found out about it just a couple of 3 years ago, I guess. Time flies, and my thing was like, I'll show you. And so instead of basking in whatever, I don't know, some adulation. There's people that love it, and I get it. It's cool. It's unusual, and it still holds up. And so I just thought, can I write something so good that it'll make two look like kid stuff with a cool story and people dying? And so that's what I did. That was my kind of therapy. Like, all right, I know how to play this next time. He won't be that guy, but he'll be cool. And so that was my thing, my therapy of like, churning it out.
Well, have you shopped the screenplay around?
I've been doing that, and I've got a podcast coming up on the 19th they're called Shockwaves, and so I'll be with Robert, because I met Robert on this little shoot. David Dakota had me in on this Christmas thing, a Christmas movie, and it was a small piece, and then I ended up getting cut out of that and completely. I went and looked at the screen the other day. It was why bother, right? So, but yeah, that's where I met Robert, and I thought, he'd be perfect for this, and so we're having a little podcast coming up, and then it might be airing before Christmas sometime on Shockwaves. But and those people are it's Blumhouse, and Blumhouse is kind of a big horror studio. Oh yeah, they're just right. And but I've been trying to shop it. It's real hard. I gotta say, Justin, it's really difficult. And I'm in the middle of this. It's just that you have to be invited to even get in the studio to sell your product, or pitch your script, whatever you want to call it. But they won't accept unsolicited scripts, and I need to push this harder, and because I'd like to get some money behind it and do it. I think it would be fantastic. It's a fast-paced, more of a action thriller. I guess if I had to narrow it down, Scott Perlman said some good things about it, but it is kind of like Death Wish meets The Fugitive, but wow. But a lot of horror, a lot of death, but up close, no guns and crap. I'm staying within the horror genre. Horror genre hates guns, and I agree with them. It's up close and personal violence is the best. It's the most gritty, and
I agree.
So yeah, I was driving down Sunset Boulevard, and I saw Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg and some poster saying 2 guns or some movie. And there were one gun pointing east, another pointing west, and I was driving by it and going, no fucking way, man. My movie is going to be heinous and death, and it's going to be fun, and it's not going to be guns. So that's too sanitary for me. So, but yeah, not to get off on that, but I want to keep in that the Ricky world, but it's really a story of what would happen to Caldwell, years later.
Right.
So it's based in breaking out of the psychiatric hospital, and so it's really kind of cool. I wouldn't even mention it. I'm very particular on I'm exacting. So if I don't think it's good, I wouldn't even talk about it. So I'm impressed with the screenplay, and I'm hoping. All I can do is hope, and in my head, I've already done it in a way. So.
Well, I'm certainly hopeful too. I would love to see a continuation of the Eric Freeman Ricky character in another Silent Night, Deadly Night movie. That'd be fantastic. I'll ask you one last thing. How does it feel being on a t-shirt, being a meme, being so beloved by horror fans around the world? How does that feel?
Yeah, it's very. I'm humbled and embarrassed, and I'm a kind of a shy guy, and I don't. It's overwhelming. That T-shirt is something else, man. That is a beauty, and
yeah.
I've got one now because I saw you back in. Where can I get one? And so I found one, and small, but actually small is pretty big. It's tight, but I'll break it in. I think it's a cool T-shirt. I mean, it's well done. It's like 7 different colors, and from looking around, apparently that's. So just to answer you, people are making money off this, which is cool, and it's neat how it's got all these years later, and it's the internet and you guys and feeding the beast in the sense of the finding Freeman and keeping it going, and Scott Perlman has been real kind, and he's been so busy with his work, he hasn't been able to finish that documentary, but he started on it, and everyone has been really kind. I just don't know what to say other than I'm overwhelmed with it, really, to this day. I mean, tonight I'm because of the cinema snob, I've got like 5 posters to put out. And I'm running out of those, and I'm like, well, this is a cool run, but it's really cool, and I was glad that I had something I could put out there for people too, as well. But all these things, and the guy getting tattooed on his belly, my likeness, and I mean, people are going to town and still are, and so it's something. It means something to people, and people's lives are not always good, and they're sad, and they've got problems, and if that movie can lift their spirits and make them feel better, and I mean, from the average guy to someone that's just had a bad run, and if it makes someone feel better, I'm on board. I'm just overwhelmed with how that it's there and it's out there. Personally, I thought it was just going to die and be never, and not this part of my past that, along with all those other things but it's amazing. It just reinvigorated me and saying, hey, people are interested in this, and now they didn't know that I had this, but it's just a little indication that there is a fan base, and so for me to say to the fans, thank you, and how cool of you, and I wouldn't do you wrong if I were to have another reboot on this. It would be everything. It might be a little different than you would expect, but it would be more. It would, because many people die in this one. And it's a story that drives it all, so it's just so great. And but no, I'm thrilled.
Well, I'm sure we'll all be keeping our fingers crossed, hoping that we'll see you reprise the role as Ricky one more time. I think that would be awesome, personally.
No, I thank you. I know I didn't mean to dwell on that, other than to say I've always felt that he didn't die in the end, and there should fuck 3, 4, and 5 or whatever, Malcolm McDowell. Excuse my French, but you know what? This thing should start from part 2 on. It's a continuation of Caldwell's life, and I know I'm older and I'm not not 19, but I can do it, and I can do it well, and I know I can. So, but I don't want they'll say, well, Eric, there's been 5 movies made, and I said, well, so freaking what? I mean, let's go from. People want Caldwell.
Right.
So that's where I'm not no ego or anything. I'm just saying that, let's So, but I do appreciate your kindness and your enthusiasm and talking to me about it. And it's cool that people still like it all these years later, and
Absolutely.
But, yeah. Anyhow, thank you.
Hey kids, this is Steve Johnson, and you're listening to On the Real podcast.
Huge thanks to Eric Freeman for taking the time out to speak with me. If you're familiar with my YouTube channel, you know I reference his performance in Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 regularly. So it was incredibly awesome having the opportunity to speak with him about the film and his role in it. Eric, you're a good sport and a good dude. Have a Merry Christmas, and remember, don't be naughty. If you're not following me on social media, I'm at Pizowell on Twitter and Instagram. That's Pizowell. And on Facebook, I'm at facebook.com/Pizowell. In honor of this holiday season, I started Volume 2 of my Holiday Horror series on my YouTube channel, reviewing more Christmas-themed horror movies. Head over to youtube.com/Pizowell and check them out. On the Real is now available on Stitcher as well. All those links can be found on my website, pizowell.com. Again, that's Pizowell. I hope everyone out there has a great holiday season, regardless of what holiday you celebrate, and all the best in 2017. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care, and until next time, peace. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.
Garbage Day! Huh? No!
Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.